Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good
Good
morning,
morning,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Morning.
Good
Let's
morning,
start.
ma'am.
Yeah, good morning. So, last time we seen that the computer architecture, and we discuss these different parts of your computer architecture, ALU, control, memory, input, output, and all those things. So now let's move to different softwares that we are going to deal with. As a computer engineer, you should know what these terms are. So that is why we are going to discuss them. First one is operating system, then compilers, assemblers, and interpreters. I might have used these words, compilers, assemblers, and interpreters, before this also, during your labs also. So let's see how, what are they. So operating system, as you know, that operating system is something that is behind every software, or what we say, what the platform which allows all softwares to be there and to interact with human and machine. So in technical language, we say it is the interface between hardware and user. User, who is the user? We are the user. So hardware ka machine language, they convert into something that we can understand, and that is what we call as operating system. So it is, what is it? It is interface between hardware and the user. So what it provides? Easy and efficient use of the system resource. That's it. So there are different operating systems. Can somebody tell me few operating systems that you know?
Linux.
Do you
Linux
know?
operating.
Windows,
Windows,
Mac.
Linux,
Windows,
Mac OS.
Unix,
Great, great, correct. So after that, we have these programming languages. So programming languages that we are using is, this time we are using is C. So it is just what we say, some set of rules and what we call as syntax, and that we use to write some programs so that our machine will get some instructions and it will perform some task, and that task can be having some output. So this is what we understand by programming language. We give some instructions to the machine in kind of machine language, not exactly the machine language, kind of instructions. Okay, so that is understood by machine also, and that can be understood by human also. So that way we call a programming language as an instructions or some syntaxes or set of rules that we give to machine. Then we have some different programming languages. So it is not like that everything started from C language. Before that, there were so many languages. So we call them as first generation language, second generation language, third generation language, something like that. So these languages were very vague and very basic and very, what we say, not under easily understandable by human. And then eventually it evolved, and today we can have Python, which is very user friendly language, and it is like we talk in English and we write that way we write program in Python. So it is that much evolved. So let's see what is first generation language. That those were machine languages. I have told you that machine languages are always into zeros and ones. So string of numbers giving machine specific instruction. I have also demonstrated one instruction, how it can be converted into machine language, assembly language. So move A1 comma 1234, how that can be decoded, something like that. That we discussed last time. So see, machine language is again the second generation, but uske pehle bhi these type of languages were there where people used to enter the numbers to give instructions to the machine. Okay, after that, in the second generation, they have assembly language. So this was kind of understood by us: load, base, pay, add A1 comma A2, something like that. And now in the background, what we used to do, we used to convert them into some codes into of zeros and ones, or some codes that are again converted into zeros and ones, and then it used to happen. So assemblers used to do that translation. See, assemblers used to do that translation. So that was second generation language, assembly language. In third generation, we have high level language, so where we can have actual mathematical equations written in the program, and that can be converted into machine language, and again the output of that is converted into the high level language like English, and that is to be done by an compiler. So that is translated by compilers. So compiler ka job kya hai? It creates, when you compile your program, whenever you execute your program, there are always two steps. First, it's get compiled, and then after that it gets executed. So there is a difference between compilation and execution. Compilation checks whether there are any errors or not in your program, whether you have followed the exact syntax of that programming language or not. If it is correct, then it generates the .exe file, and that exe file is then executed, and you can see the output on the console. So that is how the compiler converts your program into .obj file, and then that obj file is converted into .exe file to display the output in English language on the console. Are we okay till now? Any doubts?
No doubts, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Great. Okay, so this is programming language hierarchy that we can see. So at the base level, we have some hardware, which we can call as motherboard. Then we have some machine language, which are handled by compilers or something, interpreters, something like that. Then we have assembly language, so that you can convert it into machine and it is given to the hardware. Above assembly language, you can have high level language, and then above high level languages, high level languages are Fortran, C, Pascal. So see, C is somewhere there in the middle of Fortran and Pascal. Pascal ke baad hi aaya hai C. So these two languages were there before C. So people used to, even we have, when I was doing engineering, I used Pascal. So we were having that type of programming languages in 2004 and 5. So see, after that, it eventually changed, and C has become the most promising language for teaching and learning. So this is how we work. So this is kind of hierarchy, and whenever you want to have some embedded software to be designed, so there you have to follow this hierarchy. So embedded matlab, you have some hardware and you have some software, and you want to combine them. Okay, you want to combine them and you want to design an application. So that way you should be following this hierarchy. So you have some hardware to make it work. You want to have some machine language, but then machine language can be understood by some assembly language, or can be passed by assembly language, or it can be passed by high level language also. So that way you can work.
Ma'am, what is the difference?
There is somebody.
Ma'am,
Yeah, just a second. Devdatta Bhattacharya koi hai. Please tell her that she should use Cummins email ID. We are not supposed to allow anybody outside Cummins College. Somebody please ask her to use Cummins ID to join this meet.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. What was your doubt,
ma'am, what is
Nikita?
the difference between compilers, assemblers, and interpreters?
See, compilers are there to convert the languages for C. C का compiler अलग होगा, है ना? Java का compiler अलग होगा. Then Python का compiler अलग होगा. Python is interpreter language rather, but वो directly convert हो जाता है. So compiler is the one thing which is used for high level languages. okay, for the translation of that code into machine language, that is zeros and ones. Assemblers are only for assembly languages. Okay, so assembly languages are converted into machine language by assemblers, and again the output is given by assemblers back to the machine, and it is displayed in the human language or assembly language. Okay, so that is only for assembly language, assemblers for only assembly language. Now there are some high level languages like Python where we require interpreters. इंटरप्रिटर्स का जॉब ये है that the job of compiler is totally taken off. As I have told you that Python is a user friendly language. हम जैसे बात करते हैं we write program in such type of language. Properly आप जैसे इंग्लिश में बात करते हैं you write program in that language only. The way we write programs in C, C++ or Java, brackets open karo and then close it, open it, then give some semicolon, comma, something like that. Those things are not there at all in the Python. So that becomes easy task for the interpreter to convert that into the output directly. So interpreters are mostly used for high level languages like Python.
Yes.
Am I clear?
So, ma'am, they transfer the Python code into machine language.
See, not exactly, but उसका काम इतना fast होता है ना that you within fraction of once you run your code and you get the output. So even if it is 100 lines of code or 200, except if you are working on machine learning or something like that, where your data set is huge, thousands or 10,000s or something like that, that in that case it takes time. But for small programs which we are working on it, it gives output in a fraction of seconds.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, are we clear here?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am had something to say.
Huh.
So I asked Devdatta to join through her comments ID. She says
Okay.
that she's not able to do that.
Why so?
I don't know. She didn't mention why. She's trying, but she's not able to do that.
उसका email ID, please put it on the chat box.
Okay, ma'am.
Share her email ID with me. I'll add her in the meeting.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Then after this, we have some machine languages that we talked about. But let's see. I'll give you 2 minutes to read out this thing we have already discussed. Just go through it. Okay, shall we move to next slide? Now we're supposed to be writing the notes. It depends on you, dear, how you want to make note of this. Otherwise, these PPTs will be shared with you all, so don't worry. You can see we have written descriptive type of PPTs. Otherwise, I always write design PPTs in bullet points, which are of no use. But looking at your first year level, we have made it descriptive. So we will be sharing this one. So don't worry. सिर्फ छोटी छोटी बातें जो मैं एक्स्ट्रा बता देती हूँ, those you can write down in your notebook for your reference.
Ma'am, so can you send the previous
Ma'am, which is the best reference?
also?
Yeah. Yes. Which one?
Previous lecture slide.
Yes, yes, yes.
Ma'am, which is the best reference book for C language?
C language. Use this thing. Kanetkar.
Let's see.
I have sent. Let us see. Yes. I have sent invite to Devdatta. So ask her to join if she has received
Okay,
it.
ma'am.
So next one is assembly language. Go through it. Done? We talked about this, that this can be converted into the code, and that code is internally uh, converted into machine language by assembler. We discussed this
Okay.
last time. Sorry,
Ma'am, last slide is again.
this one. Yeah, this we have discussed. Just look at this slide. This I was talking about. Move A1, comma 5. So iska binary conversion will be this thing. So what we do, what we used to do, इसका हर एक कमांड का ना there is a code, एक sheet होता था. We used to enter that code, those codes into that hardware. उस हार्डवेयर को कुछ बटन्स होते थे एंड एक LCD डिस्प्ले होता था. We used to enter that code into the hardware, and once we are done, that this thing, the conversion into binary or hexadecimal is done by the assembler. And once we click on the output, then it used to the assembler used to do this job, and then whatever code we have entered, accordingly we used to see the output on that LCD display. So this is the job of assembler. Assembler won't be there in high level languages like C, Fortran, Pascal, Ada करके एक language था. In such languages we don't have assemblers. We have compilers over there. So compilers will do his job unless when you click on the compile, when you click on the run or compile button. After that, it starts compiling the program. But interpreter does when you write the program. That time only it starts working. So that is the major difference between compiler and interpreter. Interpreter,
Ma'am, machine language is a binary language.
sorry,
And machine
Ma'am, what
language
is
is
the
binary language of the of CPU, na ma'am.
binary language for CPU.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
No, it is not binary language. Not exactly, but then everything gets converted into this one. You can call it binary language also. Somehow it is binary language. Binary means two binary, BI and NARY. So by मतलब two, जहाँ पे दो ही bits use हो रहे हैं, zeros and ones. So that is why it is called as binary language, because everything you can see here, even if it is hexadecimal or something like that, they are always into zeros and ones. So if you can see F and H on the screen, that is again because the number is huge, and to reduce the sequence of zeros and ones, that is converted into F and H. Again, that F and H is converted into zeros and ones. So yes, we can call it as binary language.
Ma'am,
Hmm.
what is the difference between this hex and bind? Like, why are they or in the second example, or is given?
हाँ, see, और मतलब और कि या तो आप you can convert into hexadecimal format like this one, which is the short form, or you can have a binary format like this. So binary format has a capacity of 8 bits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know why B is there. So it has very less capacity, but hexadecimal has huge capacity. 2 raised to 16 की उसकी capacity होती है and binary की होती है 2 raised to 8. So that is why XB is there. So that is why ये जो है after 0 everything got truncated and it is converted into AH. So for you, when you are converting huge commands, that time you always convert it into hexadecimal format so that you can have smaller version of it, or you can convert it into binary form. No problem in that one, but then you will be having a huge series of zeros and ones. That is the only difference.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am,
ठीक है,
just
shall we move
binary
ahead?
take up
हाँ.
more memory than hexa? Is there no
ना, it is उल्टा है, उसका उल्टा है. बाइनरी का कम साइज वो है मेमोरी, हेक्साडेसिमल का ज्यादा है, बिकॉज हेक्साडेसिमल स्टोर्स more number of bits, na, that's why.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
So that is how it works. Shall we move ahead?
Ma'am, I can't understand.
Sorry,
On the
what you didn't understand? This thing,
in green,
assemblers का.
in green color, right? That's not understand. What's this?
See, this is just extra information for you all to understand what are assemblers. So suppose this is assembly language. The way you are writing C program, in the same way we write programs in assembly language like this. Like I have told you, there used to be one hardware जिसके ऊपर काफी सारे buttons हो सकते हैं 0 से 1, 0 से 9 तक, and more extra buttons for to see the output and all those things. And there used to be one LCD in display. So what we used to do, इसको भी पढ़ाना पड़ता था, ठीक है. जैसे we are teaching you how to write programs in C, we used to learn how to write programs in assembly language. So this is one of the assembly language where we are storing the value of 5 in A1, 10 in B1, and what we are doing, we are adding B1 and A1, the values of B1 and A1, ठीक है. These are two variables. So for this program we used to enter some codes. Move और add के लिए कुछ code होते थे, and that code we used to enter into that hardware, and what happens in the background is written in the green color. So this was the task of assembler. What it used to do, ये जो code लिखा, ये जो instruction लिखी हुई है, statement लिखा हुआ है, उसको वो इस फॉर्मेट में कन्वर्ट करता था, बाइनरी फॉर्मेट में. सो मान लो कि ये एग्जैक्टली उसका बाइनरी फॉर्मेट है दैट इट हैज गिवन टू द मशीन और टू द हार्डवेयर, ठीक है. नाउ दिस सेकेंड स्टेटमेंट इज कन्वर्टेड लाइक दिस, converted like this, either into hexadecimal format or binary format. See, there are three types of formats: binary, hexadecimal and decimal, ठीक है. So binary is the one which is purely zeros and one, उसका capacity कम होता है, you can have 8 bits maximum. Then we have a hexadecimal format, where you can store large number of numbers or values, what we can say, and you can truncate them into the smaller version like you can see here, okay, and it has the more capacity than binary format. So this is all these things for assembler, not for us. And decimal क्या होता है जो हम use करते हैं, 5 plus 10 is equal to 15. So after entering this code I want to display 15 on the screen. So 15 को वो कैसे display करेगा, in the machine 0FH, or in the binary format 001111B, like this. This B should not be there, actually this is, I guess, typing mistake. So that way we used to enter the code. So this assembler का ये काम था कि machine से ये value लेना है either in this format or in this format and display 15 on the LCD display. So that's it. So these are three formats that were used. मतलब आप क्रॉस चेक भी कर सकते हो आपका आंसर, because we used to learn this hexadecimal formats also, this binary formats also, how to convert hexadecimal into binary, decimal into binary, or decimal into hexadecimal, and vice versa. Everything we used to learn. So that was the job of assembler. Getting this?
यस मैम आया समझ में.
Then we have discussed about high level languages where we can have problem oriented languages or what we say where we can express high level of problems easily in the language in the program and we can get the outputs. तो high level language का short form भी है HLL.
Ma'am, can for 1 second you go to previous slide?
Read it.
Yeah.
ठीक है. Done. Then high level languages, read out. We discuss about there are different high level languages that are mentioned in this PPT, in this slide. Basic is the language, COBOL, Fortran.
Ma'am, so basic, Fortran and COBOL were the languages which came before C language.
Yes, before C.
Okay.
अभी भी कुछ लोग हैं जो पास्कल और कोबोल पे काम करते हैं बिकॉज दे आर काइंड ऑफ इंटरैक्टिव एंड काइंड ऑफ पाइथन की तरह है वेर यू हैव लैंग्वेज ह्यूमन लाइक लैंग्वेज एंड that is the syntax for COBOL and Pascal. So that is also the easiest way to write programs. Also, they have some different functionalities which you can embed into the hardware. So COBOL and Pascals are used for embedded systems also mostly. C is also one of them. C is most in embedded systems. If you see, mostly C is used.
Ma'am? Ma'am, as Python language is the easiest to use, so why don't we use Python as for the beginning of coding?
Python can also be used as a beginner's language, but then over the period, it was an experience that C is having less functionalities and less libraries. So to build logic, C is important because Python is having very huge libraries. So 10 line ka code is converted into 1 line. So that many libraries it has. So if I ask you to write addition program, it will be just 1 line in Python. To multiply 2 numbers, it will be just 1 line code. So for teaching purpose, it is not that much good, but and for logic building also it is not good. So to understand those things, those basics, that how program is, plus Python is interpreter language. So compiler ka kaam, when you are writing the code, the interpreter is doing the work of compiler. आपका syntax वही पे check होता है and immediately you get the error. But when you work on C, first you write program, then you hit on the compiler, and then compiler does his work, and then you come to know some syntax error is there, and again you correct it, and that way you understand the syntax of that language and you make habit of it. So वो छोटी छोटी चीजें सिखाने के लिए C is the best. So that is why we are not jumping to Python directly, though it is need of this era now, but then for teaching learning, I guess C is the best. And as you have seen, this is the first semester, so we have introduced C, and but then in the second semester, immediately we have jumped to Java and Python. Not we are not even touching C++, which will be using in second year first sem. So that is the मतलब ये जो प्रोसीजर चल रहा है वो सालों से चल रहा है. पाइथन तो अभी आया है, पहले we used to have only C++ in the entire C++ or maximum Java. I have learned Java in my final year or third year, I guess. Now see, you are learning it in the second semester of the first year. So, but then C, FPLA जो subject है वो तब से चला आ रहा है. It has not shifted its position from first year towards any other, or it has not moved out of the syllabus.
Yes, ma'am.
ठीक है, let's move ahead. Yeah. So this is the C program.
Yes, ma'am,
आपका हुआ है, किसी का बैच हुआ है, लैब हुआ है किसी का?
Yes, ma'am.
Who has lab today? We will be discussing this program, not here right now. But D1 batch, if you have any doubt in this program, please ask me, and then after that we'll move ahead. ठीक है?
Ma'am, why that percentage D is written?
Percentage D is access specifier. So it is to indicate whatever variable you are mentioning in that statement is of type integer. For float we use %f, and for character we use %c. ठीक है?
So, ma'am, whenever we perform any operation, if the two numbers which we are using are going to be integers, we have to write %d.
Yes, you have to write %d, and you have to mention its data type also, integer, using this keyword int.
And what is the difference between printf and scanf?
See, printf is used to display any statement on the console. Console is your output screen. ठीक है? And scanf is used to accept data from the user using keyboard.
I didn't get scanf.
Scanf is used to accept input from the user using keyboard. So keyboard से आप उस console पे जो भी आपका आउटपुट स्क्रीन है वहां पे आप इनपुट एंटर कर सकते हो.
मतलब अगर if we give the numbers directly कि ये particular two numbers हैं तो scanf use करने की जरूरत नहीं अगर program
that is called as hard coded values, and this is user accepted values or user defined values.
So in this we can change for the same program and उसमें it is
Yes, one time you run this program, suppose you are giving 1 and 2 for A and B. Next time you run the program and you can have the values of 5 and 4. So you can keep on changing the values. But if you are using hard coded values, that is fixed values, A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20, then every time you run program you will get 30 as an answer.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Oh.
Ma'am,
हाँ.
can you please So, ma'am, scanf is actually we are allotting A with the given first number.
नहीं, ऐसे नहीं है. You can change A here also and B here also.
No, म्हणजे whatever the user is giving the number, we are allotting it to A, like for the first, like running it for the first time.
Yeah, according to this code, first number will be stored in A, second number in B, and this addition will have. Addition is commutative, so you write A plus B or B plus A, it is one and the same thing. ठीक है?
Ma'am, in the first printf statement, what does /n indicate?
/n means the cursor has to move to the next line. अगर ये हम नहीं लिखेंगे तो ये कर्सर यहीं पे ब्लिंक होगा and you have to enter the value immediately after this colon. So suppose you have entered 10, then press enter key, then you have to enter second number, that is suppose 20. But now as /n is written over here, what it will do, it will print enter two numbers and colon on the screen, and as it will encounter this /n, it knows that /n means new line पे जाना है, तो वो new line पे चला जाएगा, and there below this E it will start blinking on the console, and there you can enter your first number and second number.
Ma'am, that and is necessary, like percentage
Yes,
D is
this
for
is necessary in scanf because this is nothing but address of A. So here you don't know where you want to store the value of entered number. Every variable has some specific address in the memory, and you want to store your values at that particular location, because when you're performing this operation, that time the value of A will be fetched from that address only. So if you are not writing this thing, your machine will not understand where in the memory location you want to store A, because suppose kahi memory location में already A होगा, but then now you have particularly allotted it that address, memory address, you will be fetching value of that address only, है ना. जैसे कि हमारे घरों को unique addresses होते हैं, right? We have different addresses, each one of us. So that whenever I am sending a mail to one of you, then it reaches to your home only, not to someone else. The same concept is applied here. Whenever you want to fetch the value of particular variable, it goes to that location only in the memory and fetches the value, and you get particular those values, and the output is printed. That is why this ampersand is required.
Then now the printf statement, even C should have an address, no, but we have not used and with C.
Exactly, because percent A and B is what you are entering from the keyboard, right? You're not mentioning its value here. When you are mentioning its value here only, it is getting its address, right? When you are declaring your variable, इसको memory location मिल जाता है अपने आप, जैसे कि आप registry कर रहे हो.
नहीं है ना, अगर हम वैल्यू दे देते हैं तो एंड टाइप करने की जरूरत नहीं है.
Sorry, repeat it again.
Ma'am, if we give A equal to 10, suppose I'm doing it for specific numbers, then I don't need to write and in the scanf statement, no?
You don't need scanf statement that time, dear, because you already have mentioned the value of A.
Okay.
So you can directly use that A over here in the formula.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
See, यही पे when you are declaring, this is the declaration of variable. So here only when you declare, it gets its memory address. Just that this scanf is something that you are getting input from some other hardware. Are you getting this? Not from the program itself. Are you getting it? Because your keyboard is going to enter some value. So उस entry को उस particular address पे भेजना है आपको. That's why this extra thing is there. But when you explicitly mention here values, there is no need. तो आप घर में बैठे बैठे आप अपना ही खुद का क्या बोल रहे हो, सॉफ्टवेयर बना रहे हो या कुछ कर रहे हो, तो आपको जरूरत नहीं पड़ती ना किसी को बताने की. You can immediately use it just like that. But when you purchase it from Microsoft Access or Microsoft, you have to give your addresses or something, some references to send that copies to your address, right? So that way it is working. Here again, C is equal to A plus B. Suppose 10 plus 20 है 30. इसका value यहीं पे इसको मिल जाएगा. So we need not to go to that particular address. We already have this value of C calculated in the program itself. We can directly use it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am, is it compulsory that we have to read A and B in two different scanf, or like we can only have one scanf for both?
Yes, you can have one scanf also.
How do we write it then?
Which batch you belong to?
E1.
E1?
Yes.
D1?
E1.
How come? Sorry, E1. आपका हुआ नहीं अब तक एंट्री? E2 का हुआ शायद. Okay. Share one Can you see this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
This is the way you mention values to multiple variables in one scanf statement. Percent D, but this sequence matters, dear. Also, this sequence matter. Whatever sequence you are writing here, that sequence you have to follow here also. Now, the both variables are of type integer. तो इस परसेंट डी के लिए आप a लिखो या यहाँ पे b लिखो, कोई मैटर नहीं करेगा. But one of them is suppose floating point, then the sequence will matter here. So suppose a is of type integer and b is of type float, that time you have to mention it according to the sequence.
Ma'am, what is the float?
Floating point numbers here. So a is integer, that is why I have written a first here. F is for floating point numbers, so b is of type float, so that is why b is written after that. But if I change this thing here, C compiler is very specific. So if I change it like this, you will get an error. Because what it will do, it will map this first ampersand B with this percent D, and it will find type mismatch. Because the data type of B is float and what you have written here is percent D. Okay, so this matters in C. Okay, are we clear?
So ma'am,
Ma'am,
we
and
can
if you are
put
using,
variables in this scanner. Means if we have to put three variables, so we can put it.
Yes, you can. N number of variables you can use. यहाँ पे C लिख दिया आपने, of type character ampersand C, sorry C1 पर. So you can use n number of variables.
Okay.
Ma'am, I had a question. So instead of the declaring D in scanf, can we declare it before and just do it from that? Like, yeah, the percent D. So that is declaration of D, right?
No dear, this percentage is access specifier and it is already defined in the C compiler.
Okay.
This is not a variable.
Okay.
Okay? Variable will be always alpha, what we say, letters, alphabetic values, or sorry, names, or it can be combination of alphabets and numbers, but not with the special characters like this. Only one special character can be used as in the variable name, that is underscore. And also your variable name cannot start with a number. It should always start with an alphabet.
Ma'am, there must be some space or comma in between percent D and percent F, because when we will input the numbers, the compiler won't understand that they are two different numbers.
No. This is the you have to write this access specifiers without comma, but then yes, you have to list down your variable names separating by
But no,
commas.
ma'am, when I write codes, I mean, I've already joined a personal tutor. So she told me that you must specify a space or a comma in between those percent D and percent F.
No, it is not. So she might have used it like this.
No, she did
No?
not use it like this, but like D and
Have you
F
tried
के
that?
बीच में, yeah मैम मैं सारे कोड्स
Is it
वैसे ही लिखती
working?
हूँ. Yeah.
Okay, no worries. This also works. If you find it, but I haven't, I have never used commas in between this. That might also be add on to my knowledge. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Shall we
Okay.
move
Thank
to
you, ma'am.
next slide now? What does
Ma'am,
the
what is the difference between float and int?
Okay. Shall we discuss those queries in lab? We have 2 hours in lab.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, I'll be explaining everything in lab. What does the computer understand machine language? Okay, we are done with this one. Assembler, compiler, This is how we translate high level language into machine language, that is object code, जिसको हम .obj फाइल बोलते हैं. Then interpreter, generation of programming languages. First generation, okay. Fifth generation is constraint based and logic programming languages. Fourth generation में you have this non, okay, I'll explain you what is this procedural language and all. Third generation में you can see kind of procedural language. Procedural language means you write everything in the form of procedures. Procedures मतलब something that you write in set under one name, and that includes bunch of lines. So that call as procedure, but procedures never returns value. Functions do returns value. Return करना यानी suppose I am working on a plus b, I want to return that value to some other function. Function क्या होता है? Something, एक suppose मैंने एक function लिखा addition, and I have written a set of lines inside that function, and I have closed that function. So whenever I want to access those 4 to 5 lines that I have written inside the addition, I just call that function. उसका नाम क्या है function का? Addition. So I need not to write those 4-5 lines again in my code. So wherever you feel that addition मुझे multiple time करनी है, तो उसको एक common नाम देके उसके अंदर उसको लिख दो. So and every time you want to access the addition का code, आपको just उस function का नाम लिखना है, and those 4-5 lines will get executed. So that is how you can reduce the number of, not reducing the number of lines, but you can manage your code properly, and you, whenever there are errors, you can resolve them. So the major procedures or functions दिखने में same दिखते हैं. The syntaxes and all I guess are same also, but then procedures को procedure कोई values return नहीं करते हैं. They are just कि कोई messages print करने हैं या कुछ functionality करवा के लेनी है. So for that type of functioning, procedures are there, and that's why we are saying these are kind of procedural language where we write bunch of lines under one common name, and every time we want to access those lines, we just call the name of that procedure. So every program, the program of Pascal, C, C++, Java, you will find in the form of procedures, modules जिसको हम बोलते हैं, ठीक है? Then fourth generation is like non-procedural, उसमें procedures होते ही नहीं है, just like you write everything in C, कि मतलब C में आप विदाउट प्रोसीजर्स भी लिख सकते हो, ऐसा कुछ नहीं कि प्रोसीजरल ही फॉलो करना है. यू राइट कोड जस्ट लाइक दैट. void main के अंदर, मेन फंक्शन के अंदर यू कीप ऑन राइटिंग योर कोड्स, एक लाइन के बाद दूसरी लाइन, दूसरी लाइन के बाद तीसरी लाइन. सो एवरी टाइम यू एग्जीक्यूट योर कोड, कंपाइलर वो पूरा 100 लाइन का कोड एग्जीक्यूट करता है. मतलब आपको अपने एडिशन मल्टीप्लिकेशन सब लिखा हुआ है, बट यू वांट टू एग्जीक्यूट ओनली मल्टीप्लिकेशन, but still your code will execute everything. So scripting languages are like that. SQL हुआ है, Apple script, VB script, जहाँ पे you write one line after each other. There is no bifurcation of that code. There is no modules or division of that code in under a common name, which used to happen in procedural languages. So these are scripting languages, non-procedural languages. And fifth generation languages are constraint based and logic programming languages. So it contains some natural language, automatic code generation, or object oriented languages. Natural languages are जैसे NLP आपने सुना होगा, natural language processing. There we convert what we say exact translation, or we actually work on the Hindi language or a English language or any other language in the world, and that becomes user friendly, much user friendly than anything written in C++, Java or Python. So these kind of languages are fifth generation language, where some constraints are given, and based on that the program is written. Object oriented, there is a question mark. Object oriented languages are fifth generation or not? Yes, they are also fifth generation languages, we can call them, because they there are some constraints that we use in object oriented languages also. Object oriented means everything works on the objects. ऑब्जेक्ट्स यानी आपके पूरे कोड को एक सिंगल वेरिएबल रिप्रेजेंट करता है, एंड उस सिंगल वेरिएबल के को यूज करके यू हैव टू एक्सेस द एंटायर कोड ऑफ योर प्रोग्राम, एंटायर मॉड्यूल्स ऑफ योर प्रोग्राम. सो दैट इज ऑब्जेक्ट ओरिएंटेड, जिसमें ऑब्जेक्ट यूज होता है. ऑब्जेक्ट इज नथिंग बट द वेरिएबल जिसको यूज करके यू एक्सेस दी all modules of your program. And again they are constraint based or logic programming, because in object oriented you have some constraints that you cannot use private functions in main class or something like that. So that we'll see in Java and C++. So that is why object oriented also falls into the fifth generation language. Then we have Prolog, Mercury, OPS 5. Prolog is kind of constraint based programming language. Then we have these different types of high level programming languages: weakly typed or strongly typed. Typed यानी not exactly typing. I will explain you what is typed. Then structured, unstructured. The procedural and functions we were discussing right now falls under structured and unstructured thing. Then logic oriented, then object oriented, and there are so many types. So these are different types that we will discuss in the next lecture. So there are so many things to be discussed now. Okay. So any doubt till now?
Ma'am? Ma'am, weakly typed and strongly typed is related to indentation, like how we are indenting our data?
No. Your batch, your class starts from which number?
E1.
3-1?
E1 from batch.
No. The number, C number.
C number, okay. UCE.
Tell me the last 3 digit.
521.
521 से start होता है?
No. 501 से start होता है.
The class starts from 501.
Yeah,
501.
class starts from 501. My number is 520.
Not your number here. Okay. Chalo. I'll be calling out your numbers. Please tell me whether you're present or not. Okay, 1.
Present, ma'am.
Yeah. 2.
Present.
3.
Present, ma'am.
4.
Present, ma'am.
5. 6.
Present, ma'am.
7. 8.
Present, ma'am.
9. 10.
Present, ma'am.
11. 12.
Present, ma'am.
13. 14.
Present, ma'am.
Present, ma'am.
15. 16.
Present, ma'am.
17. 18.
Present, ma'am.
Present, ma'am.
19. 20.
Present, ma'am.
20 is absent. 21. 22.
Present, ma'am.
23. 24.
Present, ma'am.
25. 26.
Present, ma'am.
27. 28.
Present, ma'am.
Present, ma'am.
29. 30.
Present, ma'am.
Ma'am,
31. 32.
ma'am,
Yes.
whole number 18 is present, but because of some internet issue on my side, I couldn't reply.
Yeah. Fine. 33. 34.
Yes,
Present, ma'am.
35. 36.
Present, ma'am. Present, ma'am.
37. 38.
Present, ma'am.
Present, ma'am.
Yes, 24 is present. 37. 38. 39. 40.
Present, ma'am.
41. 42.
Present, ma'am.
43. 44.
Present, ma'am.
45. 46.
Present, ma'am.
47, 48,
Present, ma'am.
49, 50,
Present, ma'am.
Present, ma'am.
51, 52,
Present, ma'am.
53, 54,
Present, ma'am.
Present, ma'am.
Present, ma'am.
55, 56,
Present, ma'am.
57, 58,
Present, ma'am.
Present, ma'am.
59, 60,
Present,
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 ma'am.
ma'am.
61, 62,
present, ma'am.
63, 64,
Present, ma'am.
65, 66,
Present, ma'am.
67, 68,
Present, ma'am.
69, 70,
Present, ma'am.
71, 72.
Present, ma'am.
Present, ma'am.
Yeah. That's it. 72 is the last number.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
ma'am.
Okay. Have you received this thing, link for the CR election?
Yes, ma'am. Not